new things, and we help you, Heather, get discovered on our channel. So you've been discovered. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our studio. I am so delighted to have such an accomplished lady in my presence. Heather Dolman Tamam is a serial entrepreneur, author, speaker, transitional coach, and business strategist dedicated to empowering individuals, especially professionals seeking career transitions and aspiring entrepreneurs. She is the founder of Dolland Creative Solutions, which is an MWBE, a company that helps women who are undervalued in unfulfilling careers that take control of their futures by building businesses and personal brands that reflect their own passions. And her new book, Create Your Own Table, which will be available at the Brightside bookstore, a guide for
Wonderful.
professionals transitioning from corporate careers to entrepreneurship. So welcome, welcome,
Yes.
welcome. And tell us more about you. I'm so excited and about this amazing book. Yes.
Thank you so very much for having me. This is a true honor because when I decided to write this book, I feel like I've always felt like I was on this journey quite literally my entire life. And you know that you're heading in the right direction, but you're not quite certain what that destination is. And so writing this book is my gift to everyone who has that feeling of there's something more, there's something else, but I'm not sure what that thing is. And I've always felt that all of the experiences that I've had throughout my entire life, I didn't go through all of this for no reason. And so, however I could serve, it has brought me to a place where I'm able to truly identify my purpose, which is why I called it Create Your Own Table, a guide to discovering your purpose, because rather than spending our lives being frustrated and angry that we're not being invited to somebody else's table, we can take the time to create our own. And so I hope it does provide the value that it is intended. It is my story, quite a long, twisted, ups and downs, and literally all over the place. I feel like I did all the things. But yes, as long as this is here, I am here to serve. And as long as this serves, then mission accomplished. So thank you for having me and allowing me to share my story.
Yeah. Oh my God. Ups and downs and twists and turns. And who
Yes, a
hasn't been through
lot.
that? So then that's perfect to the introduction in your book. Why this? Why now? Why the book?
Mhm. So I have to step back a little bit.
Yeah, let's
This
go
is
back a little
actually,
bit.
yes, we have to, yes, go back to
Yeah,
go forward.
let's go back.
That's
Yes, let's
another
go back.
chapter. So just stepping back a bit, so I'm originally from Grenada. And I came to New York to study architecture in 1995. That didn't quite go as planned, and I knew that I was not going to be I ended up becoming an environmental consultant. Very quickly, I realized I was not going to be an environmental consultant for the rest of my life. And I ended up writing my very first book called Discovering the New York Prosperous Boom. I actually have a copy of it right here. So this was book number one, written very traditionally. And I mention that because it was my first acknowledgement into, okay, I want to do something that I don't have the credentials for, but how do I get into that space? And I began to realize that if you take the time to write, and the way that I wrote this particular book, I was sharing different people's stories. It allowed me to build a certain amount of credibility in that space that allowed me to be able to launch a business that was in that space also. And I ended up remaining, so I was an environmental consultant for about 15 years. And about 10 years in the alcohol space where I work with distributors, but I'm always very niche. So it was like specifically craft distillers. They were farmers who were making their spirits from the grain and different fruit and thing from their farm. And COVID came along, as it did with many other things. And that was the end of that very quickly, quite literally overnight. I lost half my clients. But if I'm being completely true, open, and authentic, I had also gotten to the point where I didn't want to do that business anymore. A, people think it's a very sexy business. They have no idea how labor intense and miserable and all of those things. And my body quite literally began to fall apart. Literally, like my spine, what I mean, it was awful walking up and down New York City, carrying like a, 60, 70 pound bag. It wasn't fun. And I knew that I had so much knowledge, there needed to be something else, but I didn't know what that thing was. And the organic part of the story, I used to have processed hair. It's the middle of COVID. All of the salons are closed. I can't relax my hair anymore. Ended up transitioning to natural hair and just happening to share with one of my girlfriends who was from Grenada. We were having lunch and she's like admiring my curls. And she's like, well, Heather, if I knew how to do, that, I would wear my hair like how you wear your hair also.
Yeah, it's
I was like, oh,
beautiful.
well, come over. Thank you. And I was like, well, come over like if we're 16 again, right? In Grenada. Oh,
Yes, yes.
come over. Literally washing her hair in the kitchen sink aside. And I just happened to decide, oh, let me just share this on TikTok. And the brand saw the my TikTok, and that's how I got my first not account, but my first client and contract as a content creator. Just like that. And I'm like, hold on a second. So I knew like I had that passion for storytelling. I know how to sell. Okay, maybe I could do this. And I was doing that for about 5 years. And again, that knowing, it's like, Heather, you have so much knowledge. You've done so many things. You could do something else, and I'm not certain what that thing is. And so my need to, although at the time I did not know that I was rebranding myself, but I'm like, let me let the world know what and I had these chapters, and I knew they were chapters of a book that I didn't know what the book was really going to be about. And I had them on my laptop for about 2 years. And not until I was having lunch with a friend, we went to college together. I had not seen him in 20 years. And he shares with me, he said, Heather, I could never tell the story about me being at this company without telling the story about you. And I was like, what did I do? And apparently, advice that I gave to him so casual. He was going for an internship at that company. I'm like, well, you need to do this, you need to go to residential life, you need to get this letter, you need to get this from Social Security, like all of these different things that because as international students, right, we're going through a very different path than other students, other more quote unquote traditional students are going through. And if you don't know and you don't have somebody to help you to navigate those waters, you're just lost. And I'm like, okay, well, these are all the things. It was so casual. I wish I remember that day, and I can't say that I do. And he's now the CEO of that company. And it was just casual advice that I was giving. And in that moment, I saw the thread that connected the chapters. So that book was called Pivot. This is Pivot because life doesn't always go as planned. And I was just sharing my life. And I'm like, but that is what it is, isn't it? It's just the little things. And we often think that in order to be able to get results that are meaningful, we have to do these big things. But really, all it is just those little things, just like that sharing. And my sharing that with him, he then passed that information along to his friends. He was able to help a number of other people. So it's that gift that keeps giving, but we take our lives and our knowledge for granted and we don't see the value in it. And only when I wrote Pivot and I started to read the feedback, how did you do all these things? And I'm thinking, all I'm trying to do is survive, right? I'm not thinking I'm doing anything that's so extraordinary or the million and one jobs. I feel like every immigrant could relate to that story. You're just trying to survive. But it never occurred to me that these are skills that I could actually teach people who feel stuck in their lives. And so, why this, why now? When I wrote this, I was really so not in the mood. I was not ready. I had no intention of writing another book full disclosure. But when I saw everything that was happening with the millions of layoffs and everything that's going on and just the state of flux, I'm like, I need to write this right now because I knew I needed those people who are searching to find me. And the only way they could do that is if I took the time to do this. And so that was a long why. But that is truly the why that is the why. That is
And we
truly the why.
found you, and you were discovered by us. So that like falls
Indeed
right
so.
in what I try to do. Yeah, because I really feel like, being a self-published author, you have to do so much of the marketing. And so if we discover you and share it with others, then so you're watching me have this wonderful conversation with author Heather, and she's talking about her new book, and you have to get it. You really have to get it. Create your own table, and it's just fantastic even for book clubs. Brightside has a
Sure.
book club as well, because there's exercises at the back of the
Yes.
book that you could be doing while you're discovering yourself, and her story is just amazing. So this is just amazing because you can actually create your own table. I was watching Old Guard last night on Netflix, and it's about how you lose your power,
Sure.
superpowers, and then how you get it back. So each of us really have superpowers. We don't know it, but
Yeah.
we are all destined for great things. So you really have
Yes.
to spend time to discover what your purpose is. And so this is the most perfect book to do that. So we went looking back. Now let's look forward. So what's going to happen with this book? I know you're always doing great things. So what's the plan for this book?
So, in order again to create meaningful change, because like I just mentioned, I created this as a little bit of a blueprint, but I realized that in order for this to be meaningful and in order for me to be able to incite true change in anybody reading this, I needed a place for them to land, which is a term that I use a lot in the book, right? You need somewhere to go.
Yes.
And so I'm in the process of creating a program that is tailored specifically for those people who are struggling. So if you read this book and that information resonates with you, that program is going to launch in September. But that is the goal so that you can now, and again, but when you thank you also for mentioning the workbook that's in the back, it was
Yes.
very meaningful. So you think about it and you're like, all right, well, what's the next step? So I am creating the next step, which is the empowerment blueprint. That's the name of the program that I'm currently working on. It is extraordinarily time consuming. I am actually in the research stages, still interviewing a lot of people so that I make sure that I am addressing true pressure points. I'm not guessing, I'm not making it about me. I am really truly casting a wide net so that it is going to be completely online, self-paced, because we all have our lives. We are busy. We can do things as we would like. But I wanted the key was that I'm making sure that I'm answering real questions from real people and essentially allowing you the opportunity, like if there was something ideal, if there was an ideal program that would address a specific pressure point, what is that? And that is what I'm working on right now. So that, yeah, that is the ultimate goal, to be able to have everything just go hand in hand.
And that's interesting because everything we do is about empowerment. In fact, we have
Mhm.
a woman who's got a PhD in empowerment. And so we do every month we do an empowerment series. And so I can't wait for that blueprint to come out and to offer the
Thank
workshops
you.
to our audience. So stay tuned
Thank you.
because we'll definitely let you know. Now, in your book, you talk about redefining your truth. So many people try to avoid the truth. So tell me a little bit about this truth, because they say truth will set you free. And you've really outlined that in your book. Yeah.
Yes, unfortunately we live in a society that it's so everything is about high gloss and putting on the filter, right? But let your failures finance your future. The idea of acknowledging failure is, you have to present perfection. And it's such a tragedy because that's how I make all of my most meaningful connections. It's like, oh, you're not perfect. Like, why would you ever think for half a second? But the whole thing is, if my life was so flawless and I didn't have any problems, I would be completely useless to you. Absolutely useless. What would I sell you? Like, what am I helping you to do? Everything is perfect. I can't relate to your problems. I'm sorry. I'm above every and I share that. I literally so on one of the programs that I have is the Dalton Pivot program. And as I would often say, like I put all of my problems in a program and packaged it. Like that's what I did. If I didn't, the gift is a gift to get over the situation that you had. And not until you start to share that do you then begin to realize that there's a community of people that you can help that are going through the same thing. But unless we're willing to share that first, we'll all just become, it's like stuck and silent and suffering together. Why? Like
Yeah,
where is the good in that? I don't see, and I've never seen the upside in that. I'm like,
that's
it's not
true.
like I have no shame. It's like because I used to get told that. It's like, oh Heather, you have no shame. I was like,
Yeah,
it's not that I have no shame, but I'm a genuine human. I'm a
yeah,
person. To have that pretense is just exhausting.
it
It's
is.
absolutely exhausting. I'm like, there's too much other things going on in the world. I don't want to be exhausted by pretending also. Like, no, I don't
Yeah.
believe in the facades.
Yeah, this is me. This is it. Take it or leave it.
Just take it or leave
Now, the
it.
next one that I like is asking better questions. I know I
Yes.
interview people a lot, so it's easy for me to ask questions. But really, the moment of truth is when you ask the right question. So, tell me a little
Yes.
bit more about that.
So I think that also has to do with a certain understanding that we can, the people that we are, we're framed by our experiences and our lives, right? So I understand that we can only ever work within our parameters. So there's a certain amount of comfort that needs to be able to come with that because if I am asking a certain question, I also need to be mindful and aware that I am comfortable with that very question being asked of me also. And so you can only, if you're that person that chooses to live on the surface, and there's no depth that's necessary, and that is your comfort. I do try to respect meeting people where they are because I don't ever want anyone that I am communicating with to feel that I'm cornering them. So you do that, you have to do a certain amount of self-analysis and have that awareness. But again, you get out what you put in. And so if I really want to do something that's meaningful, I need to ask something that's meaningful. But the first step of that is genuinely caring. That's not something that, and people sense when you're not being authentic, when it is a facade. You're asking something, but then you have the mask up, and that doesn't really work. So there needs to be a certain amount of vulnerability and openness. And I think once you do that, you're able to go deep. And some people, they just rather go wide and stay on the surface. But if you're looking for transition, you really just need to go deep. And you can only do that by, again, like creating that. And again, it comes with knowing how to create that safe space that we are speaking. This is between you and I, whatever that situation is. And I'm not going to judge you. I'm here to help you. So I'm creating this safe space for us. And now let's have this conversation. But we're limited by again who we are, because if you're busy flossing and glossing and pretending to be perfect, the last thing you want to do is to get into the messy, right? But that's where all of that great stuff lives, not on the surface.
Yeah. So I just have two more questions. So your
Okay.
purpose and your personal brand. Um, and I know we talked about the 30 days. purpose plan, which is the blueprint for empowerment. But let's just talk a little bit about your purpose and your personal brand. And then I'll tell you a little more about the book and where y'all can get it, and we'll
Sure.
talk about a few more things.
So for me, it truly is just inciting meaningful change. I have, so I'm essentially in my third career. And I have figured out many things. I haven't figured out everything. I will never pretend. I am still learning every single day. There's something that is being revealed. And that is actually part of my excitement for the program that I'm working on, because it is a program that's going to have lifetime membership. Because I acknowledge that I am also on my own journey and I'm only a few steps ahead of anybody else that's also on that journey. And so that purpose is to be able to serve and to be able to make meaningful difference, to be able to create meaningful change. That's the goal. It's all together. It's a goal of my business, it's a goal of the book, and everything informs the other. Just being authentic and living, and
Yeah,
the sky's the
living
limit. It truly
living
is.
the life. Yeah. You know,
Yes.
when I first got the book, what caught me with the press release, and now when I'm reading the back of the book, which says, what if the life you've meant to live has been waiting for you,
Yep.
and waiting on you to say yes. And you've spent years showing up for everyone else, being a woman, that's number one, being reliable, being responsible, being everything to everybody. But deep down, there's that quiet
Mm.
voice saying, what about me?
What
So,
me?
in Create Your Own Table, this fantastic book that we've been talking about for 30 minutes now, it speaks to you, and it has real life lessons, as Heather explains her third career, to help you along the way to find that purpose. Because once you find that purpose, life becomes more meaningful and more beautiful. And last night I was watching another there was an Indian movie with a song that talks about the world being so beautiful. We have rivers, we have mountains, we have flowers, we have smell, everything that's meant to be. And so that's what we want to tell you is, be empowered. Life is for the living. And if you fell down, pick yourself back up. And if you are on a high road riding, then you still need the book, because you need to ride higher. So keep going. And that's really what life is. So would you like to close with some great comments?
Actually, I would like to share something that you just said, as far as if you fall down, pick yourself back up. Again, back to the question of failure. If you just see the falling down as a repetition, right? So we're
Yeah.
not assigning failure to it, but you can trust your ability to get back up, then the failure is just what it is. You just fell, and oh well. And I wrote about this in the book also. In the medical field, they're testing for drugs or whatever it is. If the first test doesn't work, nobody says, oh my goodness, it failed and nobody's getting
True.
funding for this anymore. It doesn't happen. So why do we do that in real life? And so
Yes.
it's like you make that mistake the first time, you're not going to make it again. And it's all experience. It's all experience. And it's not too late. I think that's also the biggest thing, because a lot of people tend to think that there's this timeline because they're measuring their lives to other people. It's not too late. As long as you have that desire, I am here to be able to help you along that path. And we could figure out those steps together, but it is not too late, period.
There's a game where we played as children called Snakes and Ladders. I don't know if you ever played
Yes,
that game.
sure, of
And when you
course.
think about it, there are more snakes than ladders. So obviously, every time you're climbing the ladder, you're brought back down until you can get to the top. So, hey, you've been discovered on Brightside. This has been a delightful
Thank you.
conversation. Get subscribe to our channel, write us a comment, and go get Heather's book, because and take a photo, snap it, show us that you're paying attention. Because when you buy books from our authors, you're showing the channel that it works. It works every time. So make sure you do that for us. And don't forget, there's more coming up. So thank you for watching Brightside.
Thank you for having me.